Hey friends, just something talking about recently with some people, and wanted to make a video of it and let you have some of this information as well. It's about relationships, and sometimes I find that people are looking for the way to have a healthy relationship, and they want to be able to do it on just their side, basically. Like, what do I need to do to make this relationship work? Right? So in essence, they're looking for the formula to have a perfect or a healthy relationship. The thing is, there isn't one of those. Now, why do you say that, Rich? Because aren't there things that we're supposed to be able to do to improve our relationships? Absolutely. There are things that we can decide, we can own, we can make choices to do. We can help improve relationships, how we communicate with people. We can do that. The thing where it goes a little bit more sideways is when we're looking for a formula to make the relationship work in a healthy way. Now, why there isn't one is because when we're trying to make the relationship work, we're trying to add in the ability to control the other person. And that is not possible. So finding a formula that you can do yourself that puts all the variables and ingredients together to make a healthy relationship doesn't exist, because relationships are not based on formulas. That is something that just came out recently in a session with somebody, and it's been just really impacted them, and something I really wanted to talk about here too is how we can get confused and to look for a formula to make a relationship work. Now, why do we do this? Well, sometimes we really want to have a particular relationship with a particular person, right? That's reasonable. I want a relationship with a friend. I want a relationship with, you're right, relationships are not built on formulas. We may want this person, it may be a family member, right? A lot of times we run into issues where the parents aren't, we can't have a relationship with the parents like we want, can't have a relationship with siblings like we would want, can't have a relationship with children like we want. But we take responsibility to try to make the relationship what we want. Yeah? And we can't do that because we can't play the role of both people. If we did, we'd just have a relationship with ourselves. We wouldn't be relating to the other person. It's normal to desire a connection, a healthy relationship, and for the other person to want us, to do nice things for us, to treat us in good ways, to basically behave in a healthier way, communicate well, be kind, loving. Right? The 1 Corinthians 13 chapter of love, patient, kind, doesn't envy, does not boast. We'd love to have people interact with us that way. Absolutely. And the beauty of relationship is when that person actually chooses to do that with us. That's the coolest thing. And when we try to formalize this and come up with what do I need to do to get this person to do this thing that we really like them to do, we're trying to control that other person. And now, which I mentioned to a lot of people when I meet with them at times when we're talking about this, is if that person does what you are trying to get them to do, supposedly, we're trying to find a formula, the correct combination of behavior, words, whatever, to get this person to do something. If they do it, you're really never sure if they are doing it because they really want to, or they're doing it to pacify you. So even if they do what is on your desire list of how to interact, you will never feel fulfilled or stable or trust the other person relating to you, because they're only doing this they're not really be able to choose it, because you already made it that they have to pick options. Either do because they want to, but you're reminding them of it, or because they want to pacify you. You'll never know. Versus the person that just genuinely picks to do this for you, with you, to you, however you want to describe it. And it's kind of that you don't tell them, they just do it. That's awesome. That's the best, right? And okay, so let me just dive into this a little bit deeper in kind of a scriptural, biblical foundation for it, because this, I think, is understandable, but when we really look at it from a biblical perspective, I think we can really ground ourselves on this. And what is it? It's about choice, right? And you think about God relating with us. He sent Jesus to come to make a way back to him, right? But he doesn't ever manipulate us, force us, right? Deceive us, trick us, pacify us, whatever, tantalize us, bribe us to come back and relate with him. Because if he did that, he wouldn't know if we ever picked him. It would just be in response to whatever he was doing that would be appealing enough to us to want to do it. So that manipulation stuff God doesn't do it. And why? Because love requires choice, and he has to let us choose. Because in order to choose to have a relationship with somebody, you have to be able to equally choose to not have a relationship with them. And Jesus, in all his relating to people, approached it the same way. He was not manipulative. He did not try to just make it appealing for them. He basically said, hey, you want to follow me? Let's go. Right? And there wasn't a formula that you had to do or have to do to have Jesus pick you. Right? You're not figuring out, how do I do well enough? That's the false relationship or religious teaching, where there's steps you need to do or things you need to do, hopefully enough, frequently enough, to the large enough amount that you are accepted into heaven or you're accepted by God. That is weird. It's totally not the God who is in existence and who Jesus was sent by the Father part of him. Because Christianity is, from what I understand, the only religion where you don't have to work for the relationship or work for even the possibility or hope that there might be a relationship that is, even those, the relationship is more, if I do enough, I'll be accepted by that person. And that's really kind of disappointing, because even if we get accepted, we will never know when we may not be acceptable any longer. Right? There won't be a resting in the relationship. There will be constant anxiety, because we will never know if we maybe underperform somewhere, and then we will be tossed out again. And so looking a little bit more at Jesus in this, he had plenty of times where he noted to people, it's not the rules, right? He was on the Pharisees about all the rules to get approved by God, and that it didn't work. He actually got very, very angry and upset with the Pharisees, because they looked all shiny on the outside. They looked as if they would be approved and accepted and wonderful, right? They had that down, but he called them whitewashed tombs. What does that really mean? Well, they're shiny on the inside, whitewashed, really pretty, but they're tombs. Dead stuff inside. So that's really not something we want to be, right? A whitewashed tomb, dead on the inside, shiny on the outside, not cool. And our world is full of this shiny on the outside, dead on the inside kind of ideas, whether it's position, power, prestige, money, right, looks, whatever it is that we aim for to kind of somehow fill us up on the inside. But anytime we go down that road, all the acceptance and accolades are really only based on how well we perform, right? So how well we continue to perform. This is, if we make a mistake or we do something that other people don't like, well, now we'll go out of acceptance or popularity, so we will be dissed and we won't feel secure in it. So I think a lot of people in very successful positions, or we'd say are successful, probably most insecure people. I was actually watching a YouTube video, I don't remember the lady's name, but she's a model, and she was talking about how models are actually some of the most insecure people about their bodies. Why is that? Because everything they do is based on how they look. And if they go do something, their legs do this, get a little much here or whatever, then right, they're not the perfect specimen, so now they're no longer accepted, so they don't get work anymore. And that's a mess. But you can Google that. YouTube was fascinating and wonderful. I love when people in those positions are real and acknowledge that this performance stuff doesn't make you feel any better. It actually makes you feel worse. Right? So, how do you do relationships? Well, if we throw out the formula idea, right, people get confused about that. I think that's the same thing for Jesus, right? Do people say, well, what do I need to do? And he says, you don't really have to do anything. Just believe in me. Just hang out with me. And the people typically go to, yeah, well, what do we do? And I get it. It's confusing. It's hard to explain this idea of relationships without formulas. Absolutely. So what does it look like? Well, it's just I choose what I do to other people, and they choose to do what they choose to do to me, and then I get to choose how I respond to what they do. And with the holidays here, this really plays out a lot in families. There's confusion over how do we respond to family members who maybe don't treat us very well, or we don't feel cared for, or we're hurt by, right? How do we deal with that? Because they're family, right? If anybody else treated you that way, you wouldn't interact with them. But your family members may treat you that way, and you're confused because it's supposed to be a relationship. We're family. We're labeling it as a relationship, but it's really not a relationship because we're not choosing to treat each other in a way let's see, when not accepted at all. Yep, you are right. Love it. Thanks, Angela. Where was I going? Oh, family members. If anybody else treated us the way the family members treat us, we would not probably pick to hang around those kind of people. Right? They wouldn't be enjoyable. They wouldn't be helpful. They wouldn't be uplifting. We may like or want to have a relationship with them and would want them to treat us a particular way, but we have to accept the way they are acting. And then we get to choose whether we respond, in favor and in close or moving towards or sharing more, or in distancing ourselves and not communicating much of what information, or maybe just totally cutting off the relationship completely. That is how relationships work, right? And the relationship can only be as healthy as the least healthy person, and the health of a person is very much based on how or of how do they see their own value? Is it based on their performance? Is it based on other people's performance and how that reflects back on them, which is often a family thing, right? My kids don't do this, so I don't feel as good as a person, right? So I try to get my kids to do something else, but they always disappoint me, so then I don't feel good about myself. That's a mess. So I forget where exactly I was going, but how do you deal with a family that way? You, unfortunately, sometimes have to choose difficult, disappointing, unfortunate behaviors. And that may mean not going to holidays, right? Or I'll go to the holiday celebration, but when I get comments said or treated a particular way, well, I'm going to choose to respond to that treatment by leaving because I don't want to be around that kind of treatment. That's a possibility. That's what we can control. We cannot make that person not say or not do those things. Like we can't bring the best potato casserole and then we'll get the affirmation we want and won't get picked on at all. Or we can't have the greatest outfit and be that and approved, or get the best gift, or have the greatest year of success in business or whatever, that we won't get picked on when we go to the holiday celebration. Or we just hang around family in general. It doesn't work that way. Now, is it easier to disconnect from friends or acquaintances or that may start treating us poorly? Yeah, I think that's easier at times, most definitely. And with family, it's often more difficult because, come back to that idea again, it's family, so there's a desire for a relationship to be there. But we cannot formalize it. Get back to the main part of this. Again, there is no formula to make a healthy relationship. There is our part we can do, and that's we can be healthier as individuals, but we cannot make the relationship healthy, right? There's nothing we can do to control the other person to get them to cooperate and behave in healthy ways. So unfortunately, that's the truth, the painful truth, the difficult truth, but the truth nonetheless. Is the scripture, back to that, Jesus, God, allow us to choose. And even if we choose to have a relationship with him, we may very well often choose to do things that hurt him, choose to do things that disappoint him, choose to do things that maybe reject him, or choose to do things opposite of how he sees us, right? That we don't think we're good enough, right? Or believe things that aren't true. Yeah, God has to allow us to do that. Does he talk to us and tries to give us wisdom, to give us insight, to remind us of what's true? Yeah, but we still have the choice of whether we accept it or not, whether we walk in one way or the other. It's totally on us. So that's the way it works with God and us. And I think that's the same way it works with us and us, human relationships. So we have to choose, and we have to let people choose. And they may choose stuff that hurts us. They may choose stuff that abandons us. They may choose stuff that isn't in line with what we would want. And then we have to just, right? God doesn't come running after us, try to manipulate us and get us to do something again. He's there. He may call out. He may reach out, but he's not going to make something happen. So we can't either. But we're not God, so we don't have quite the emotional fortitude and stability and confidence in ourselves that he does. So we can be more challenged as humans to stand in truth and let other people choose what they choose, and for us to be able to stand alone if that's what is required, or to go in a different direction if that's what is required. So often we need support. It's where people like me come in at times, counselors, but even just friends, peers who remind us, encourage us, and point us to the idea that healthy relationships, we can't make those happen, but we can, as a person, be healthier. And there is kind of a formula, so to speak, for our own health, and lots of components to that. But as far as the relationship goes, sorry folks, no formula for that. And I'm an engineer by training too, and telling you, there's no formula for it. It's just the way it is. It stinks. Sorry to disappoint you, but can't give you the answer for that. That isn't possible. So anyway, share this, like it, pass it on if it's helpful. Thanks, Angela, for joining me here and writing some cool comments. I appreciate that a lot. And we will see you next time. All right, take care. Love you all. Wish you good, well, and healthier relationships, because you make healthier choices and allow unhealthy people to do whatever they do, and you just get out of the way. Take care. Thanks, Angela. Bye. If I can figure out how to stop this thing now. That could be, there we go.